must stay at home.
Coronavirus has hit the UK. It's inside this hospital.
The Prime Minister has announced the most drastic limits to our lives that the UK has ever seen in living memory.
People in different parts of the UK will start to be given their first dose of a coronavirus vaccine.
The World Health Organization says vaccine hesitancy is among the top 10 threats to global health.
As COVID-19 restrictions lift both here in the UK and around the world, it's imperative that governments enlist the skills of behavioural experts, both to better understand and work with this last remaining hesitant group. My name is Dale Smith. I'm Creative Director for Bridge. As an employee engagement and culture specialist, I see this as a communication and human issue, something that needs a very clear and strategic response. This really combines all of the stuff that I've been doing with Bridge, both on a corporate level and on a community level as well. We're seeing this vaccine hesitancy pretty much globally.
Skeptics around the world have taken to the streets to protest against COVID-19 jabs.
It's probably one of the most interesting behavioral shifts that we need to make in our population that I've seen within my entire career.
This community has been badly hit by COVID, but there's skepticism that the vaccine is the answer, with some people believing outlandish claims.
There are so many different variations of why people can be hesitant.
No vaccine?
No.
I have to say, my thinking in the early days is I began to lump most people into anti-vaxxers. And that's one small section of the population that we are talking about. They're much harder to shift in terms of mindset. And then we'll have what we consider vaccine hesitant. Now, hesitancy then breaks into various cohorts. People who are hesitant against vaccines in general. Then there are people who are hesitant about COVID-19 vaccines. Each one of those two cohorts will have different narrations that we need to apply to them. Some are hesitant under fear, lack of confidence. They maybe have had so much misinformation that they have what is considered overload, and therefore are unable to even make decisions based on the amount of information that are hitting them from various sources. Now, we know there is a lot of misinformation out there, but that is still information, and information that needs to be digested. More specific to COVID-19, we need to develop detailed behavioral frameworks based on the key drivers that sit behind individual hesitancy. By breaking the community down into clusters, it will allow us to apply the required influences, mediums, and investment. These clusters could include passive hesitancy, where a person might have had one or two of the jabs, but now questioning getting the booster. There's the uninformed, which we need to give clear and accurate information. The misinformed, we need to change the current belief with more accurate information. And then there's others with more tangibles, such as access, financial barriers, and even culture and language.
Are you surprised that the vaccine skepticism appears to go beyond the traditional anti-vaxxers?
No, not at all. I think it's a symptom of the times that we're living in.
What drives hesitancy? What makes people behave in sometimes irrational ways or counteractive ways to what is considered the general or norm in the population? Being able to shift mindsets of individuals to something that I consider to be incredibly important and very powerful within our community. In looking at some of the research, I've come up with all kinds of different models and methodologies of what drives hesitancy.
Most people are not against taking the vaccine. They just want to sit down and have a conversation about it. And the surprising part is I'm sitting there ready often with numbers and figures, but it's not that. They just want to have the conversation, feel like they've been listened to, and have reassurance coming from somebody who knows what they're talking about.
I think it is imperative that we start any initiative with research, what I call the sponge phase, where a team of people sit down together and we absorb as much information as we can in order that we can begin to understand the behavior of humans that support what is considered hesitancy. And then creating models that support the community. The way in which we do that is by listening. We've got to create a much better dialogue with the community at large and understand what I call the why factor. Why are people behaving in certain ways and what drives that behavior? Once we can begin to identify the why factor, we then create narratives around different answers to their hesitancy.
If you got a call tomorrow saying, come and have a vaccine, do you think you'd go?
I'd like to say yes. Personally, I'm still a little bit unsure.
Much of the current research that I discovered all points to a similar conclusion, and that's using people in the community on how we can get the information to the individuals in the most safe and connected manner possible. We know how communities work and come together in times of trouble, and that has been represented throughout history. And we need to build that into our narrative.
Here in Corsham, they're reaching out to those isolated at home to offer help with anything, and to let them know they are not alone.
And there's all those terrible stories about, people emptying shelves and being really selfish, and but there's a lot of good stuff happening as well.
If we're going to change people's mindset from a vaccine hesitant one to that of a vaccine confident one, we need to lock into a much greater, higher purpose, vision, values, all the stuff I would do in a corporate campaign if I was looking at employee engagement and building internal campaigns and shifting the mindset in the corporate world. It's not dissimilar to how we need to change the mindsets of those from hesitancy to confidence. As somebody who studies human behavior, I'm fascinated by this final cohort, and we know we need to get them on board in order to reach herd immunity. We've tried various tactics throughout the pandemic. We pulled some people in by giving incentives, we pulled other people in by information and logic, and some people were just naturally lining up for the vaccine because they felt it was right for them or the right thing for their community. But we have this last remaining portion that we need to have on board. Often the stats of herd immunity are done on a national level. We know herd immunity only works on a community level. That's why we need to have faith leaders, community leaders, and people that represent the people in the population to speak on our behalf. We need to give them the tools and the information that will allow us to reach that community with the highest desired outcome. One of the things that we need to recognize is the importance of language and using language that better represents the community. Like personally, I don't like the term herd immunity. I think there seems to be something quite barbaric around the term and non-scientific. Therefore, when using these coined phrases, the most important part is to ensure that we actually deliver the true meaning of what these things are, to explain the importance of them and the impact that they have on us coming out of this pandemic and putting this period behind us. The way forward is truly locking into behavioral science, because this is a human issue now. Understanding what people value, how those values affect their beliefs, and how those beliefs affect their behaviors. People want to do the right thing. It's about how do we engage with them to shift their mind. One of the things that I've recognized in a lot of campaigns that are currently out on the market, not only in London, but on a global basis, is they fall into the camp of what I call tell campaigns. Telling people to get the vaccine, telling them to do the right thing, telling. Well, with this small cohort that we have remaining, that we need to shift, I don't believe tell is the way. It's about creating a two-way dialogue. It's creating collaboration. Passing out a leaflet at this stage to people to say, you need to get the vaccine, will probably have a very slow shift and a very low margin. The importance of communication and making them part of the solution is vital. Throughout most of this pandemic, we've been learning as we go, and that is a massive testament to human resilience. However, as restrictions are lifted, we must not lose sight of the importance of vaccination and remain committed to working together on this final chapter of COVID-19.